Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the first episode of Physical Media Zone's Top 10 Facts, where we cover 10 different facts about a variety of subjects within the worlds of physical media. Each episode will have a different narrator, and I, Raymond Doherty, am proud to be the one to kick off this series with our top 10 facts about WWE on home media. Quick disclaimer before we get into it, I will be using the initials WWF for anything produced before May 6, 2002 for historical accuracy. Fact number 1. In 1994, Coliseum Video and the WWF partnered with Good Times Entertainment to release compilation tapes which would be an hour long each and would cost less to purchase compared to the standard Coliseum Video tapes. This deal lasted all the way up to the demise of Coliseum Video at the end of 1997. The tapes released by Good Times were WrestleMania, The Greatest Matches, SummerSlam, The Greatest Hits, Most Unusual Matches, Confirmed Hits, Free For All, Most Amazing Matches, Shawn Michaels' Best Hits from HBK, World Tour 1996, In Your House Greatest Matches, Action Zone, and Bret Hitman Hart. Fact number 2. Some WWF home video releases from the mid-1990s would have tips for WWF video games, as well as tips for other video games released by Acclaim, such as the home console ports of NBA Jam, which was featured on the tape for the Royal Rumble 1995. These tips and tricks were presented by the main host of WWF home video at the time, Todd Pettengill. There was even an entire promotional tape released for WWF WrestleMania, the arcade game, which covered tips and tricks for the Super Nintendo, Sega Genesis, Sega 32X, and Sony PlayStation ports presented by the World Wrestling Federation superstars themselves, as well as showing some behind the scenes footage on not only the production of the game, but also behind the scenes footage for the 1995 opening sequence for Monday Night Raw, filmed on top of Titan Towers, at the time the headquarters of the World Wrestling Federation. Fact number 3. When Coliseum Video began releasing WWF home video releases in 1985, they put Stephen Hecht in charge as producer, which meant he was responsible for choosing what matches, promos, and segments would go onto each tape. However, he made a massive blunder in 1987 with the WWF's even more unusual matches. This tape had 2 Texas death matches between World Wrestling Federation heavyweight champion Hulk Hogan and King Harley Race from 2 different house shows, that's a wrestling term for untelevised events, held at 2 different arenas, Madison Square Garden in New York City and Boston Garden in Boston, Massachusetts, with the matches being placed right next to each other on the same tape. The problem with this is that because of the nature of 1980s professional wrestling house shows, these 2 matches were in fact the same match, just in a different location, due to the fact that this was a major rivalry on an important house show loop in an important market, that being the northeastern United States. The error was not spotted until the tape was released, and when it was spotted, the World Wrestling Federation took control over what went onto the tapes and gave the role that Stephen Hecht had as producer to an announcer they just hired that year, named Bruce Pritchard. Fact number 4. Bruce Pritchard would only be in charge of what went on to WWF home video releases for 2 years before the role of producer was given to another newly hired announcer named Tony Schiavone in 1989. He revealed in an interview years later that there was an edict direct from Vince McMahon himself stating that matches featuring Hulk Hogan must be shown in their entirety. This led to Hogan's matches being timed out first, and whatever runtime was left on the 2 or 3 hour long tapes, depending on the release, was what everything else got, which meant that entrances would often be cut down and other matches would be clipped or removed entirely. Schiavone would only be the producer for Coliseum's WWF releases for a year because he left the World Wrestling Federation in April of 1990. Fact number 5. Sean Mooney took over as the main host for WWF home videos releases in the early 1990s, and during this time, the tapes began getting more gimmicky, with segments showing him and other WWF stars doing different things for each tape, such as Rampage 1991 having golf-related shenanigans, and Invasion 1992 doing a Star Trek parody. There were even some comedic sketches, such as Tax Tips with Erwin R. Shyster, IRS, Dinner with Yokozuna, and Bowling with Kamala and Slick, with a lot of these themes and sketches being based around what Sean Mooney and others would find in the prop closet, which would then lead to the scripts being written around what they found. Fact number 6. The early 1990s also saw the full bloom of the Coliseum Video exclusive, as it would come to be known. World Tour 1991 had multiple matches from international tours, such as Hacksaw Jim Duggan vs Kendo Nagasaki in Japan, and both The Rockers vs the Orient Express and Jim the Anvil Neidhart vs the Warlord in London. Smack'em Whack'em had Bret Hart winning the WWF Championship for the first time, and their release of SummerSlam 1992 had 3 whole matches that weren't shown on the pay-per-view broadcast. This practice of having content only available on home video would carry on through the transition to WWF home video moving in-house and eventually becoming WWE home video. Fact number 7. When WWF home video became its own thing in 1997, they began re-releasing the first 13 WrestleManias on VHS, and their 1998 release of WrestleMania 1 actually has all of the original music intact. It's the only release with Easy Lover as the opening theme, Another One Bites the Dust for the Junkyard Dog, Born in the USA for the US Express, Girls Just Wanna Have Fun for Wendy Richter and Cyndi Lauper, New York, New York for Liberace, Eye of the Tiger for Hulk Hogan and Mr. T, and Axel F as the ending theme. The only difference from the original broadcast was the Attitude Era WWF logo slapped onto the bottom left of the screen. It was only released on VHS and only released in North America, with the WWE Tagged Classics DVD release of WrestleMania 1 and 2 by Silvervision using the Coliseum video releases from the 1980s for both, meaning that all of the licensed music was dubbed over. The later Anthology Series DVD release and the streaming versions would have all of the music dubbed except for Girls Just Wanna Have Fun. Fact number 8. The WWE Tagged Classics series actually did get a release outside of the countries where Silvervision had the distribution rights. A limited number of them were released in Canada between 2002 and 2005, and in the United States between 2003 and 2005. These releases just used present pay-per-view events tagged together, for example, Royal Rumble 2003 and No Way Out 2003. The Tagged Classics series was discontinued when Silvervision stopped distributing WWE home video titles in the UK, Ireland and Germany at the end of 2012. Fact number 9. The best-selling WWE home video release of all time was WrestleMania 22, which was released on DVD on May 23rd, 2006. Within just a month and a half of the DVD set being released, it had already sold over 345,000 copies in the United States alone, with sales numbers being strong worldwide as well. The 2-disc set not only included the entire event, but also the 18-man inter-promotional battle royal that took place just before the show began, the 2006 WWE Hall of Fame ceremony that happened the night before, and the March 18th, 2006 episode of Saturday Night's Main Event, which was the WWE's return to primetime on NBC for the first time since 1991. Fact number 10. WrestleMania 24 was the only major WWE event to be released on 4 different disc-based formats, those being DVD, Blu-ray, UMD and VCD, with the Blu-ray using the VC1 codec, which was common in the early days of high-definition home video for its efficient handling of interlaced video, whereas all future WWE home video releases on Blu-ray, starting with the Best of SmackDown vs. Raw in November 2008, would use AVC, also known as H.264 or MPEG-4, which has far greater compatibility and better, more consistent performance compared to VC1. I hope you all enjoyed the first edition of Physical Media Zone's Top 10 Facts. We'll have plenty more videos in this series to come about many different things from several different narrators, and episodes will be released on a regular basis. Please press the like button, subscribe to the channel, click the notification bell, follow us on social media, and share this video with those you know. I'm Raymond Doherty, and on behalf of everyone here at Physical Media Zone, I want to thank you all for watching.